camera do you use for your stream cam? Oh, you probably can't trust it.
Slow a little down is what they say. I'ma get it over in my...
Make sure I'm unmuted. Hello. How's it going, everybody? Hope you guys are all enjoying your Friday. Welcome back to the Shoot Your Shot Photography Show. My name is Ben Jacobson, and we're back with another episode. It seems like it's been far too long since we've last been together, but I'm super excited that we're back now. And we're going to be joined by my friend and fellow photographer, Alex Hecht. If this is your first time joining us for the Shoot Your Shot show, this is basically the show that I'm putting together to feature and highlight photographers from all around the world. And we're really just trying to find interesting people and share what they're working on and their work and their life and everything in between. So we're super excited to have Alex on with us here today. And Alex, it looks like you brought a friend with you. I think you might be muted there. Oh, there you go. What's that?
I did bring a friend. This is Charlie. This is my son. He's about 17 months old.
He's
and
cute.
He decided he didn't want to. He wasn't.
We turn that volume up a little bit on that dial. Well, it looks like you guys are having some fun there. What have you guys been up to tonight?
Not a whole lot. He just decided he didn't really want to go to bed before the show started, so I had to bring him along with me for a little bit.
How can you blame him? It's Friday night, right? Time
That's
to party.
True. That is true.
Well, awesome, man. I'm glad that you can make it, and I'm glad that Charlie can join you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we got a chance to kind of briefly catch up a little bit yesterday, just doing a pre-interview call. And yeah, it's been a while since I've gotten a chance to see you. So it's really great to see you again.
I think it's probably been, like, what, 3 or 4 years?
Dude,
so?
at least. It's got to...
Charles.
What was the last time that you can think of? Because I remember...
The last thing...
Old studio... We shot some portraits together forever ago.
Yeah, I do remember that. I think I even forgot about that.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I think the last thing I specifically could remember was the time when we were shooting photos at Camel's Back in the snow.
I remember that too.
That was kind of the last thing that I distinctly could remember.
Yeah,
you weren't there.
It's been a while. Yeah, he doesn't know.
There, Charles. You weren't there.
Well, yeah, man, it seems like you've been staying at it pretty good. I mean, you've been shooting film for, man, as long as I can recall.
Yeah.
What's that been like lately? I mean, as it seems like it's becoming a little bit more difficult, but also there's weird pockets of resurgence where you're seeing more film options become available in certain areas. What is it like trying to actually continually shoot film right now?
It's funny because I feel like people think it's harder than it is, right? People are always like, oh, I'd love to shoot film, but it's so expensive. And it's like, I don't know. If you do a little research and you find some places you can go. And so, I mean, yeah, it's more expensive than shooting digital, but it's not that much. It's not I don't know. It's not that expensive, in the scheme of photography, where we're talking about a hobby where every new camera is a couple $1,000s.
Easily.
A lot of that stuff, it's not that expensive in the context of the hobby in general or the industry. But I don't know. People seem to think that it is, or seem to think that it's somehow harder to do, which I mean, I don't know. I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different perspective because I, learned how. You mind, mister? So I learned how to process my own film, when I was in 7th grade. And it's if you can teach a 7th grader to do it, it's any adult should be able to get a hang of it. So, I mean, I learned how to process my own film, which again, some people see as a really daunting sort of task, but it's if you can keep stuff warm, and you can keep it, hey, stop. That's not for you. Don't touch that. Don't touch that, please. I'll go put you back in your bed, and you can just cry if you want, or you can sit here with me. Hey, let go. Stop that. If you can keep liquids warm, I mean, even in the case of black and white, it's not even that. It's just, you mostly process black and white film at room temperature, and you can just, you pour the developer in, you pour the developer out, you rinse it with water a few times, or use stop bath if you really want to get technical with it. And then you just run it through the fixer for a few minutes, and you rinse everything off, and then you're done. It's not as tough as people think it is. I don't know. I feel like, and I'm not really sure where that comes from, like why people seem to think it's so tough or this big sort of daunting task, because it's really not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally how I learned. Is I learned all black and white film, like from rolling from bulk film and like actually filling your own little 35 millimeter containers and everything like that, all the way through, developing and printing in a dark room and like actually using like photosensitive paper and everything like that. And the process itself is very rewarding, but it's really not that difficult. Once you get the basic science of it down, like there are people that, you have a pretty basic process that allows you to create something out of basically nothing, which is pretty awesome. And it's kind of magic in a way.
Right. It is.
And you, talking with you the last couple weeks or so, just kind of re-inspired me as well to go out. And as I was telling you the other day, I recently bought another C41 processing kit. So
nice.
I'm
Which one
excited
did you get?
Which one?
Yeah. Did you get the unicolor one with the powder?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to be able to do that again. It's been such a while since I've done any developing, and I've never developed C41 before. It's always been black and white. I've never developed color before.
I mean, it's the same. That's the funny thing too that I hear from people who've done their own black and white, but are like scared about doing their own color. But it's like it's the same process, Yeah. You pour the developer in, you pour the developer out back into the bottle. You pour the Blix in, you pour in the Blix. You do that, then you pour in the stabilizer stuff, and that's it, and you're done. It's in some ways, it's like almost easier. Because you know how with black and white, you have to constantly be like, okay, what film is this? What developer do I have? Okay, so this is Tri-X. I've got D76 1:1, 68 degrees. That's 9 minutes, 45 seconds. Like, okay. Like, you have to know all that information. C41, the process stays the same no matter what film it is.
Yeah.
Whether it's some Kodak 200 from Walgreens or if it's Ektar or Portra, like it's always the same period of time, always the same temperatures, and always the same process. So it's like really simple and easy that way.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited. I feel like maybe every year or every 2 years or so, I kind of feel like I get stuck in like a creative rut. And I have to switch something up. And for me right now, I really feel like that's going to be film again. I mean, I shoot film. I have shot film on and off since I first started, 15 years ago.
Nice.
15 years ago is when I first started shooting film. 16 years ago, maybe. And I mean, I've shot on and off since then. And it's just been like, it's sitting on the shelf behind me. It's just been gathering dust. And I actually, even literally today, took it out and, cranked out a couple frames just while I was wandering around downtown this afternoon.
Nice.
So being able to like get out there and shoot film and stuff has been like kind of a new sort of resurgence of finding something more interesting and new.
Something to do. Yeah. I mean, I feel like another thing too that happens a lot with people is that they always say like, oh, I wish I could shoot film. It's been so long. I wish I could shoot film. I wish I could do this. And it's just like, well, then do it. Nothing's stopping you. And in some ways, I feel like, okay, pal, listen, just relax. I feel like in some ways, like it's easier now than it was 5 years ago, to shoot film and to buy film and to find places to process it. Like it's easier now than it's been in 5 or 10 years almost.
I can definitely see how that would be the case. I mean, like I mentioned, I haven't been shooting consistently enough to know for sure. But I mean, I was also part of a show that was all about shooting film photography. And so like I know at one point in time it's became really difficult to find any sort of like film stock locally, which I think, you know, still probably holds true, especially here in Boise.
It's actually Timeless Photo. They just moved from 17th and State, but they have like when I first started taking film to Timeless, probably back in 2015, I was processing it all at home myself before that. And then my chemicals got exhausted and they needed to be replaced. Yeah, I hear you, bud. You weren't there. Don't pretend. And I went to go, like my chemicals were exhausted and they needed to be replaced. And I just was like, I had this roll that I like really wanted to get processed like really quick. So I just took it to the lab and they processed it and scanned it for me, I think. And I was just like, oh, I'm never going back. Like, so, and like when I started going in there in 2015, they didn't carry film. You could not buy film from them. And I went in there the other day into their new location off Cole Road, and they have a fridge now that they got the fridge. They actually bought all the processing gear and everything from the old Idaho camera.
Smart.
And all the machines and stuff. And they bought the film fridge that was in there.
Oh, nice.
So they have a fridge full of different film now that you can buy from them. And they didn't have that. I don't think they even had that 3 years ago.
Jeez, that's crazy. I've used Timeless as well. I used that lab quite a bit actually locally because at the time I was not, as I mentioned, I wasn't processing any color film.
Yeah.
And
I don't do it either anymore.
The only place that did it locally was, I mean, Idaho camera as well, but Timeless was like around the corner from me.
Right. And every time I would go into Idaho camera, they would be really annoying because I would be like, hey, I asked them if they could scan it to a thumb drive. And they were like, well, yeah, but you have to buy the thumb drive from us. And it's $15. And I was like, well, what if I can't just bring you one? And they're like, no, it might have a virus on it. I was like, what if I bring you one that's sealed in a package? Because whenever they like go on sale, I'll like buy a bunch of them just to have them around. Like, and so I just, I asked them about it and they were just like, oh no, we like can't do that either. And I was just like, okay. So I just sucked it up and bought this thumb drive from them. And it was like the chintziest little piece of crap. It was like,
of course it was
8 gig thing. And I was just like, wow, okay, I'm never doing this again. Like, this is a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've used Timeless as well, like a bunch of times. And I really actually had pretty good luck with them. I fell in love with sending my film out to like Indie Film Lab or RPL. Like after doing that a few times though, like it became, I wouldn't say cost prohibitive, but it was
right.
cost
It's definitely more expensive to mail your film somewhere.
It was by a lot. And I mean, I think I spent under $100 to get the C41 processing kit, and that'll last for what, dozen rolls or so, a little bit more,
maybe about 20.
So 20 rolls. I mean, if you look at it,
how much did you spend on it?
It was like, well, actually, so I got a new film canister as well,
like all the reels and all the stuff that you need, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got that as well, but I think the kit was only like $35-$40, something like that.
That sounds about right.
And
I think the kits have gone up in price, partially just because demand, I think, for them has increased. And I think too, there's like people now that are making those kits that weren't. And so they're like, I don't know. There's a weird thing that's happening that I feel like is happening in film where like people are trying. Hey, don't turn the computer off, please. Do you want to go lay down? Is that what you want? All right. I think I might go put him down. So
okay.
Give me like 2 minutes.
Yeah, you're fine, man.
All right, bud.
Yeah, so it's been probably for me, let's see. The last time I shot a roll of film, so my fiance and I actually have been, we shot a couple of rolls of film in the last couple of years, but one of my character flaws, one of many, is that I have just an a gallon bag of undeveloped rolls of film. So we've been really looking forward to being able to actually process through these and just kind of doing it ourselves. So the next step is trying to figure out what scanner to get. And that's like a whole nother, I haven't got to that step of the process yet. I've shot the film. I now have made the leap of getting the actual developer in order to develop it ourselves. Now the next step after that is going to be figuring out how to get it all scanned in. So I think I might have narrowed it down to a scanner that I kind of have in mind, and it's not too terribly cost intensive, but I'm really excited to possibly get that one as well. And Alex, I think actually as you're getting back, I think we were just kind of briefly talking about it the other day as looking at scanners for film, right? So which one did you say that you're using again? It's the V600?
So yeah, I've got an Epson V600 currently, and I had a Canon 9000F for a while, and for some reason I just was like not really very happy with the results that I was getting from it, and I wasn't sure if it was I wasn't sure if it was me or if it was like the scanner. But I just like wasn't getting results I was happy with. And I was like, I figured like, okay, I'm not sure if it's me, like, and I just don't have the patience to get good results out of this, or I just can't wrap my head around how to make this work, or I'm just not sure if the scanner is just a little bit lacking. But yeah, there was just some things about it I just didn't like. And so then I borrowed an Epson V6 or V500 from a friend of mine, and was like immediately like, oh, okay, it's not me. Like, I think I just don't like this Canon scanner for whatever reason. So,
Interesting.
So then I gave him that scanner back, and I got the 600, and I've been pretty happy with it so far.
What are you noticing that's kind of a difference between that? Like, what are the things that you didn't really like? Was it just like the color cast, or
it was just like the quality? Like, for some reason, and I don't know what it was. Maybe the scanner just needed to be like taken apart and cleaned or something, but I just always felt like the quality just didn't look very good from the Canon.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, I just didn't like the quality of it, and it just didn't look quite right to me. So
it seems like a lot of people are leaning towards the Epson. I feel like in my last kind of few weeks and couple months of like researching and like trying to get back into film maybe a little bit, it does seem like the Epson is a pretty popular choice for going with scanning. Are you noticing?
It really is. Like, I think part of the reason why the Epson series, specifically the V600s, are so popular is just because you get really high quality results at a pretty reasonable price point. You know what I mean? Like, could you get a faster scanner? Absolutely. Can you get a faster scanner? I mean, you can, but you're going to spend a lot more money. And like, there's some other scanners too that I've seen recently that have been coming out by a company called Plus Tech. And they're really they're really highly regarded by people, and they're really, people seem to really like them and get great results. But if you want to scan 120, you have to buy the one that's like $2,000 to get to it. You know what I mean? You have to get the one that's really expensive. And I think even the one that just does the 35 millimeter is like more expensive than the Epson.
Really?
So yeah, but I think it's maybe a little bit faster. I don't know. I just, there's plenty of things too. I mean, if you really want to go nuts, you can buy a pack on, and it'll scan an entire roll of 35 millimeter film in about 5 minutes.
Oof.
But it can only scan like 3,000 pixels on the long edge is the largest resolution it can go.
So there's it's not.
Yeah. There's always like trade-offs, right? And I think that the Epson V600 is like a Honda Civic. It's like, it's reliable. You can get, I don't know that I was going to say you can get parts for it just to kind of keep the car analogy going, but I don't know that you can. but it's reliable. It's going to get you where you want to go, and it's going to be inexpensive to get into. So I think that's part of the reason why the V600 series is so widely used, because they're pretty good and they're pretty inexpensive. I think they're what, $300-400?
Yeah, somewhere in that range last time I looked.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you
I mean, and you could probably get one used for 50-75 less than that, you know?
Yeah. Are you using any additional like software in order to like scan or?
So that's funny you should ask that. That's actually something that actually kind of ties into the live streaming stuff I've been doing. Over on Twitch, is just because we went through like all sorts of different stuff when I think we were actually doing it when I had the V500 maybe, but I gave Negative Lab Pro a shot because I'd heard good things about it and I knew people really liked it. If you're not familiar with Negative Lab Pro, it's a plugin for Lightroom that basically will invert your negatives for you, and you can apply all sorts of different adjustments like to that plugin, like as you scan the negatives in. So it's a little bit weird because you have to scan all your negatives as color positives. So the images that you import are inverted. They just look like, like a negative would look if you held it up to the light. And then you bring it into Lightroom and you run this plugin, and it kind of gives you a preview, and you can make adjustments like to the exposure or to the, certain color temperature things or saturations or hues and stuff like that. And then you run the plugin and it inverts the colors for you, and it like inverts the negative for you, and it works pretty well. It's pretty full featured. But ultimately I decided that it wasn't for me because it just added an extra step to the workflow that I wasn't super stoked about. Just because I've, part of the reason why I shoot film is because I don't completely want to just spend a bunch of time in Lightroom.
Agreed.
And it also felt like, and this was just my opinion of it, it worked really well, and it was really like a pretty robust feature set for the plugin. It's $100, which is, like I said, in the scope of, that's what, 5 months of Lightroom and Photoshop. So it's $100, and they have a free trial, so I was trying it out to see if I wanted to buy it, to see if it was something that made sense for me and the way I like to work. And I realized, I just don't know that I need this extra step for the features that it has, because a lot of times those features are already in the native scanning software from the scanner manufacturer. So it was like, okay, I can either pay $100 and get this Lightroom plugin that now I have to scan my images, as positives, import them into Lightroom, invert them, re-export them to JPEGs so that they're, so it's like tripling like the files that you have, it's like, so just a lot more file management and stuff getting involved in it. And so I kind of said to myself, I said, well, why don't I just try and see what I can do in Epson Scan? And I was able to get a result out of Epson Scan that was as good as the Negative Lab Pro result.
Really?
Without the extra step. And so I just was like, okay. And so I came to the conclusion, like, this doesn't really make as much sense for me personally. I know a big thing now that people like to do. I know Dom's in the chat. Oh, shoot. Aaron, TLD Academy. He is the guy you really ought to be talking to about live streaming and photography. That dude is a huge part of the community on Twitch.
Yeah.
He's in the middle of a wedding.
Yeah. We're glad to have you here.
What's up? Yeah. What's up, Aaron? So like Dom in the chat, he scans film using a light table and a macro lens. Right. So you're using, you use like a DSLR on a copy stand, and you can get raw image files of the negatives. And I think if I was working that way, like if I was doing the scanning with the digital SLR, I would 100% use a Negative Lab Pro. because that's kind of, to me, more where it makes sense.
Okay.
Because you have it in a negative to begin with, or it's like it's inverted already and you have to invert it anyway. So you might as well use this super cool plugin tool to do most of the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah. So if you're going the route of using a scanner, you should probably, from your experience at least, it's just better just to stick with the scan software
I
that's already
mean,
in there.
I wouldn't
For
say
you.
that. But for me, yeah, I think so. And so I recently upgraded my laptop, and for whatever reason, with some of the new Macs, the original Epson Scan software didn't work, so they came out with Epson Scan 2, and the Epson Scan 2, for whatever reason, doesn't have digital ice to remove like dust and scratches and whatnot. So what they did is they basically did this cool thing where like you can get a free copy of Silverfast, which is like a ridiculously powerful scanning software. I don't even know how much it costs, but I think it's kind of expensive. And so you can get a free copy of that, and I downloaded it. And one of the first things we did on this new laptop on my stream was just go through and check, just go through and see like, oh, let's try Silverfast out and let's see what Silverfast is like. And like, I don't want to say that it was bad because I haven't really dove into what Silverfast is like and what it can do, because it's very powerful software. Like you can scan your images in as like 64-bit raw files.
Wow.
Or I don't remember if it was 64 or 48. Anyways, you can ridiculous
super
stuff
deep
with
bit
this.
depth.
Yeah, super deep, because it's just the software and it's just using the scanner as hardware. So, and that's kind of another thing too, is like people sort of get obsessed with like this different software or whatever, but you're always going to be limited by what the hardware can do.
Of course.
And so sometimes people just get weird about stuff, and it's like, listen, man, if you really need that kind of resolution, just shoot it with the D850. Like, stop wasting, like, why bother? Like all the, like, really, like, come on. So I think I noticed that when I used Silverfast, for whatever reason, the scans just came out super like noisy. Like the JPEGs were just real noisy and like gritty looking, and it just didn't look good. And I tried a few different ones, and like the results were kind of varied. And I don't think that Silverfast is like bad. It wasn't getting the results out of it that I wanted. And so I kind of went back to Epson Scan, but I've been meaning to like put a little time into learning how to use Silverfast to see if I can get a little bit better result out of it. Because yeah, it just wasn't good. It wasn't like working well for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I mean that brings up one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, which is you're streaming on Twitch, and as you're doing a lot of this. So for those who have maybe not seen your channel yet, like describe like what it is exactly you do on your channel, because the fact that you're streaming on Twitch and doing what you're doing, like I just think it's so fascinating.
Yeah, so mainly, I don't know how to, it's kind of been a long sort of journey to getting to where I started streaming like photography content on Twitch. I mean, I've had a Twitch account now for probably like 4 years or so, 3 or 4 years. And, it's just like would watch people play video games occasionally and like kind of check out some of the other stuff. And like I would stream stuff sometimes, like just weird stuff I was doing. Like one time I did a live stream where I was installing all these tiles in my kitchen just because it was like something to do. And because I never really I didn't have a PC or anything to like really play games on or anything. And like I had a 2008, I had a 2008 MacBook at the time that like couldn't handle like running OBS and like Lightroom or anything. So
yeah,
I kind of just, but I had thought about it. I had thought like, oh, it'd be cool to like scan, or to stream like doing some photo stuff, like photo editing. Like I wonder if there's an audience for that. But I just never really could. I never really did it. Lightroom's kind of a hassle to stream because for whatever reason, the OBS software sees every pane of like the Lightroom window as its own separate window source.
Yeah.
So you have to,
encountered
it's
that.
super weird. So you have to like run it as a display capture or, run your laptop into a capture card. And it's kind of a mess. But so I kind of gave up on it just because I didn't really have the equipment or the gear for it. And then, last year the pandemic started and, I had a bunch of stuff laying around from this podcast we make at work. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could, stream some of this stuff on Twitch or something. And so then I had just been watching people play video games like while I worked. Like I would just have it on the TV or something. And I'd be like watching people streaming games. And then one day I think I was like, I wonder if there is anybody streaming photography content in like the art category or whatever, or there, because there's a photography tag.
Mhm.
And so I think I like searched for it somehow, and then I found a guy called Shoe. It's the number 5 HOE, and I found his stream, and he was doing like really like pretty in-depth Photoshop retouching. But I was like, whoa, there are people streaming like photo stuff on Twitch, and so I just started watching his stream and started interacting with some of the people there, and then finding other streams like TLD Academy, finding Aaron's stream. And there's another guy called Midnight Rush TV, and like just meeting people that were already there. And I was surprised to learn that Shu has been streaming on Twitch. He's been streaming photography content on Twitch for like 7 years.
Wow. That's
Like
crazy
I guess
to me.
when he started, there was like a complete embargo against any non-gaming content being streamed on Twitch. So what they would do is they would stream under the Pokemon Snap game
Oh yeah, that's
as
right.
like a weird way to like sort of circumvent those like rules, basically.
Crazy.
And if they would and it was just this really small. I think Midnight Rush has been on for years too. So there's like a few people in the community that have really been doing this for a long time. But I mean, I only just recently discovered it about a year ago. And then I had a separate Twitch channel that I was starting to kind of do stuff on. And I think I had done a couple streams where I had scanned some film, and I was playing games too and stuff. And there's actually a team. So there's different teams you can put in on Twitch that all have, a different sort of like, it could just be like an esports organization will have a team, and then you click on the little link and it takes you to all their people. There's actually a photography team on Twitch, and the goal of the photography team is to get photography added as a category, because currently on Twitch, your options for streaming photography are either streaming it under art or a channel called Just Chatting, which are both places that people people do end up streaming their photography content. But there's no photography like category. And so the point of the team is to, is focused on people who are primarily streaming photography content, like 90% of the time. Because even the photography tag, if you go to it, it'll just be people playing games.
So
It'll be mostly people playing games. And so the purpose of the team was to kind of give people who are seeking that content like a better place to go to access it.
So has Twitch kind of like relaxed their rules? Are they like allowing?
Yes, they
everything
do
now?
allow a lot of creative content now. It's kind of, as long as it's like not vulgar or violent, like you can kind of do whatever you want. And I think that was a big thing with the creative side of it. Was a few years ago, they had a big partnership with Adobe, and then introduced like the art category and everything like that. And there's a bunch of other things too, like people playing tabletop like role playing games like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. And there's another one, I think actually one of the biggest categories is called just chatting.
Yeah.
And it's like just people hanging out doing this, or just people like talking and, doing whatever.
Yeah. So what is like the community like inside of like this photography space? Because I'm looking at it from a perspective of, clearly right now we're streaming on YouTube. So
Right.
like keeping that in mind, how is it like, is it a supportive community? Like, is it pretty tight knit, or what's it like?
It's pretty tight knit. And I would say, yeah, it's very supportive. And very, I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain because it's just like such a small group of people, but you see them in like all the, you see a lot of the same people in some of the streams. And like, I mean, there's some people you only see in like a couple of them, or just maybe just one or two, but by and large, it's like each kind of person kind of has their own little sort of community as part of this other larger community that all is kind of united under this goal of having photography get added to the categories.
Would you say that it's growing? Like, do you think that they're...
I think so. Yeah. I think it's definitely grown a lot, even just in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. I feel like there's more people streaming photography content on Twitch now than there were, 8 or 9 months ago, or kind of, I think I actually started a second channel, specifically with the intent of streaming photography content like 100% of the time. The team, because I kind of wanted to have my other channel just to be able to goof off and play games on and stuff, which just hasn't happened. My alternate account ended up becoming my main account like super fast. And so, but it was like, I was able to reach affiliate in probably like a week and a half just off of the community being like, hey, go show this guy some love.
Wow.
He's new to this. He's, trying to do good things for the community, and he's doing something that nobody else is doing, and he's scanning film. So go support him. And it kind of blew me away, like just how accepted into the community I was so quickly. And there's a lot of people too who are members of the community that don't stream, but they're still in a bunch of the streams. They're still around. They're still subscribing to channels and stuff, and a big parts of the community, but even if they don't necessarily stream themselves. So it's pretty diverse too. There's people on Twitch who primarily focus on product photography. There's a guy that does live streams I don't know if he's doing them every day, but every so often, and he's just doing product photography and, shooting the photos and retouching them and building the sets and everything. And like, he's doing that. And then Shu's doing like high-end portrait work, and doing like portrait campaigns and like just doing like stuff with agency models and doing really high-end retouching on that. And then you have people like, Aaron, TLD Academy, he's doing primarily like weddings and engagements and stuff, and he's editing all that stuff. And then Midnight Rush is doing like high-end beauty sort of retouching and things like that. And so it's a pretty big and diverse community. There was a guy one time I watched for a while. He was shooting a Seattle Sounders game live.
That's cool.
And he had his camera like tethered to the computer, and it was like, you'd hear him just go, and then you would see the images that he had just shot come up on the screen. Yeah. And so like that was super cool. And there's there's people who are part of the photography community that are editing video, that are doing like video editing and stuff, and sort of like editing wedding videos or just editing real estate videos and doing just all kinds of different sort of photo, video, creative things, and just like sharing that work. And, I think a big thing about the community that's focused on is, a big thing that the community is focused on is just education and teaching people how to do this stuff. That's one thing I know that, Shu is really big on. It's just, showing people how to do things, how he does all this retouching stuff like frequency separation and, just all these different techniques that he does to make, to do this Photoshop retouching. And you know, he's, he's really good at it. Like,
Yeah.
he's
I've
really
caught a
good at what
few
he
of those
does.
streams. I mean, each of these people that you've mentioned are like, they're no slouches. Like each person
Yeah.
that you've mentioned, like I've watched one or two of their streams before, and it's like they do great work too,
Yeah.
which is awesome to know. Um, it's also really rewarding to hear that it's like a supportive community, like the fact that
Hmm.
they,
Oh,
were
absolutely.
helping boost you up. Um, I think that's really cool because so often I think that the story always goes the other way, where it's, not a very supportive community, not a bunch of,
Right. Or it's just
super
hard to
welcoming people.
find your play. It's like hard to find your people,
Yeah.
which is, I think, one of the biggest things. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Like, I still end up mostly streaming to like 5 or 6 people,
Sure.
but it's fun and I enjoy it, and I think that's how it should be. But it's definitely nice to know that there are other people out there that share the same interest as you and are, share willing to share it with the community, with more people, with other people on the platform and stuff. So I think that that's something that's was really cool for me to discover, was that, oh, there are other people doing photography content on this platform. Like, I never knew, and it's like, it was something I could have been a part of, 4 years ago, but I
Yeah.
just didn't know it existed because I didn't really ever think to look either.
Yeah. You had mentioned that it took you only a couple of days or a week or so to get to affiliate
Mhm.
status. So for people that aren't super
Oh,
familiar with
right.
Twitch, what is affiliate status and what does that actually entail?
So affiliate is like a Twitch program where after you've reached affiliate, you're able to have people subscribe to your channel. You're able to make these custom like emotes. You can make these little, like, just these little pictures of you. There's one of me where I'm like
I
like
can
kind of,
imagine it now.
and there's like another one that's like a pizza slice, and so you can make these little emotes that people can spam in the chat and just do fun stuff with. And when people subscribe to your channel, you get like a channel subscription is like $5, and so like I get $2.50 of that, which doesn't add up to much in the grand scheme of things, but it allows you to start making money, streaming through subscriptions and donations and stuff, once you reach the affiliate level. And then there's a higher level than that. It's called partner, which I think has some additional perks and stuff, like your videos on demand get saved longer, and you have more. I don't know. I don't exactly know what the partner program is like, because the requirements for it are pretty. The bar for partner is much higher than affiliate, and I actually don't think there's anyone in the photography community currently that's a partner. And it's kind of the whole process you have to go through to like be approved, um, for the partner program. Like, they actually kind of review an application and stuff.
Mm.
Whereas for affiliate, like, you just hit, I think it's 3 average viewers, 7.5 or 7 hours of stream content, and 50 followers.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
if you streamed for 7 hours in, like, I think it's over 30 days or something like that, and you hit, or maybe it's 2 weeks, I don't exactly remember, it's been a while, but like, once you hit those metrics, you basically just get an email from Twitch that's like, hey, check it out, like, you can do this stuff now if you want. There's a couple, like, there's some things that you have to agree to, as part of the partner or as part of the affiliate program, that some people think isn't the best. But I don't know, it's pretty, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's nice to be able to make it, and it was very nice that the community was able to rally around me to make that happen, because I know other people, I think, like Aaron, TLD Academy, I think he said he was streaming like for like a month before he like even got close, or something like that. So it just kind of depends, on what you're doing and if you want to do it. But it worked out pretty well for me, and I've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that you're able to find this community and like have them rally behind you and I think that you said something earlier that's super important to keep in mind. It's just like it doesn't matter if you're streaming to 4 or 5 people or 1,000 people or 500 people or whatever the case is. Like, the fact that you're finding like a community of other people that
Absolutely.
are wanting to be involved with, the same
Absolutely.
things that you're doing anyway. Like, I think there's something really cool about that. And I mean, another thing that I've pointed out, I think a couple of times, is just like how I think it's so cool specifically inside of what you're doing, that you're bringing in like this unique perspective, because it's, scanning analog film and retouching film and a lot of things that you're doing on your streams. I think it's just so cool because, there, as you mentioned, there's others that are just, going through a regular editing session from what they normally did. And there's a lot to be learned there. But I think just having that different, unique perspective of,
absolutely.
Developing film and scanning it and everything is so cool.
And I think that that's one of the things that sort of pushed me to create the new channel, to just do photography content and to just focus on like analog photography, because, I looked around and I realized that there wasn't really anybody doing it, and that there was, people, it was kind of seemed like this mystical sort of thing that people had, like, couldn't, I don't know. It's just people like, oh, film, I like remember that or whatever, but then, I just was thinking, I was like, I think I want to do this, because there was a conversation that was on Shoe Stream where it was, they talked about, where we were talking about the purpose of the photography team, and, the purpose of having the team and the reason why they wanted people to be focused on photography content, like 90% of their stream time and stuff. And so they, I kind of had this decision to make, like, well, do I want to change my current channel to be focused solely on photography, or do I just want to start a new channel? Which I did. I just started a new channel, Alex Hecht Photo, and I think it was also better too because it was more concise. Like, what you're getting into when you see the username. You're not like, oh, what is this? And like, I'm thinking if you search photo, it might come up like a little bit easier. So that was just something that I thought of, and it worked out pretty well, so far.
How often do you try to stream?
So I try. So it's kind of been a bit hit or miss at times, just because, sometimes stuff's going. The biggest thing with streaming is just consistency. Like, if you can be consistent and, continue to just do it, it helps a lot. Like, if you can stay consistent with keeping your numbers at a certain, I mean, not that the numbers really matter that much, but it's when you're more consistent and people know you're going to be there. I think it's like kind of like Pavlov's dog, like something in their head goes, oh, I think let me see, or they get the notification and they're like, oh yeah, that's right, it's Tuesday, or whatever day it is. And so I've been trying to stream 2 nights a week, which I think works pretty well for me. It's tough because sometimes I just don't have any film to scan or like, stuff to really edit, like in Lightroom, if that's kind of what I'm doing. So I try to go twice a week because that's a pretty sustainable level for me. And I feel like if I did it like 5 days a week, I would just get burnt out. Or like, and it's tricky, I mean, I have a 16-month-old, so, he kind of throws a wrench in things sometimes, and I don't want to be, that's something too that I think Aaron has talked about a lot, because he's actually built a pretty substantial community of his own, and just sort of, he lives in Hawaii, so he's 4 hours behind Idaho right now. So it's 6 p.m. Wait, no, it's 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
where Aaron is.
Yeah.
And he was live on Twitch this morning at, I think, 7 a.m. Hawaii time.
Oof.
And that's late for him.
Really?
Yes. Wow. For quite a while, he was going live at like 5 in the morning, Hawaii time.
Jeez.
And he
Okay,
would
that's
stream
why I'm
for like,
catching his streams then.
right, yeah. And then he would stream for like 4 or 5 hours. And then it's, 10 in the morning. And then he goes and, spends the rest of the day hanging out with his family and stuff. And one of the things he's always been big on is saying, like the reason he streams that early is because, he can have that time for a few hours to where it's not like, because he also has 2 young daughters, so it's like his wife's not having to watch his kids all day by herself while he's just like streaming or whatever, because everybody's still asleep.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that he's always said too, is, always make sure you communicate like with your partner, or, especially if the kids are involved. So always communicate, like when and like what times you're kind of going to do it, which is why my streams are always at like 8 p.m. Like if I can get started by 8, I'm chuffed. It's usually like 8:30.
Yeah.
So like, and that's usually why I stream at 8 o'clock, is because that gives me plenty of time to, get through dinner with my son, get through bath time or bedtime or whatever. And, help be able just, I admittedly, my wife does a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to bedtime with him. And so my wife does a lot of the heavy lifting, but I still make myself available to help out and to lend a hand and to do kind of anything I can to help make it go as smooth as possible.
Sure.
And so that's something too that's really important to me as well, making sure that like I'm not kind of, I'm not like leaving my wife to take on all this extra slack because I want to come sit here and scan film and play GeoGuessr and talk shit for 3 hours or whatever. So
yeah, that was another thing I wanted to bring up is for the uninitiated, like your streams are pretty lengthy. Like I think most streams that I'm seeing on Twitch, I think are just so much different than what I'm used to seeing inside of a community of YouTube, where everything's 10-minute clips, super condensed, super cuts. But I mean, yours are a couple hours long at least, right?
Yeah, I usually stream for like 2.5 to 3 hours. Sometimes I'll start at 8:30 and end up going till like almost midnight. So like about 3.5 sometimes. It just kind of depends, on what's going on. A lot of times too, we'll be working on scanning something, and then me and the chat and everybody will just get off on a tangent, and we'll be looking at stuff on eBay for like 25 minutes. Like it's like, oh, we started this scan, and then we ended up on KEH for 15 minutes, and now I just and all I'm trying to do is make sure this the frame is scanning the correct spot, and then and so it's like that kind of adds up to take a lot of time sometimes. So if you're trying to get stuff done really fast, it's not the best way to do it. And I know that I know Aaron's talked about that before, and Midnight Rush and some other people, they say, I can retouch a photo in 20 minutes, 35 to 40 if I'm streaming.
Yeah.
Because there is that interactive component to it. You can't just like, sit there and not do anything.
Yeah.
And not interact with people, because that's the thing about streaming. I think that's really that's the biggest thing, is just the interacting with people. And that's kind of why I started wanting to do it with film, was just because scanning film on your own is kind of boring. And so I was like, if I just did this while I streamed, at least I could talk to somebody while I'm like doing it,
Yeah. And I think that's like another thing that's even a little bit of my own insecurity there too, is like, you don't want, like when you're live streaming, like you want it to be like interactive and engaging, and like you want to talk to people, and you want, you want people in the chat like talking, and like you want that interactivity. And so when I hear 3 hours, like my heart skips a couple beats, and I'm like, whoo. But
right.
I mean, if you got something going on and you have, people chatting with you and stuff, then like it seems like, I imagine that would go by a lot faster.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and there's, I've watched, I don't know if there's a guy on Instagram, I can't remember what his name is, I want to say it's like Johnny Creative is his Instagram handle. But he was on a stream. He was on Shoe's stream a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
and he and Mike is that's Shoe's name. Uh, they ended up chatting for almost 2.5 or 3 hours, just talking about photography and just sort of like the process of doing it. And so it's one of those things too that it seems daunting, like to think about it now, but it's actually like it goes by in a flash, and people, it's nice too, like with Twitch, because people can kind of come and go and people can stop in and say hi and you can talk to them about something, and then they'll go, and then some other people will come in, or a raid will happen and you'll get 15 people will drop in from somebody else's channel. And so it's like it's a lot more interactive, I feel like, than me just sitting here, like, or like I'm more engaged in it than if I was just kind of by myself.
I think maybe even the premise behind Twitch itself, because it is, I think, a little bit more geared towards being chat focused. Like I think it builds itself upon being a more interactive and community based platforms, to where it's
Absolutely.
Whereas YouTube, I feel like, is more one directional.
Yes.
I feel like Twitch is much more of a two-directional conversation.
I kind of think that's I'm gonna try to hold on. I want to go turn the light on because it's like real dark in here.
Yeah, you're good.
But I'll get back, and I have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I feel like that's where the difference is for me, is just the amount of...
Okay, that's like marginally better.
Yeah, looks much better. Can see your beautiful knit face now.
Okay, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. So I think part of it is that YouTube didn't really put the time into developing the streaming side of their platform until Twitch was already pretty established, right? So people, I mean, I don't know. I think there's like a general sort of sense that people tend to associate YouTube with videos and sort of like watching videos, or, interacting with content that is pre-recorded. Whereas on Twitch, it's like you're expecting this to be live. You know what I mean? And so I think that that's kind of part of it, is that, I think some people, when you ask them, they don't know that YouTube even has live streaming. And
Believe
so
me,
I think that's...
I found that out the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that that's one of the things. I mean, I know I probably said this before, but you should just come over to Twitch for a couple episodes and see how it goes.
You're convincing me more and more every time we talk, I swear.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing too. If this is working for you and you like it, I don't want to tell you you're doing it wrong. That's not what it's about. But, I think that, there's just something to be said about folks, knowing where to find you. You know what I mean? And I know you've been working on this platform for a while, so I wouldn't want to, derail any progress you've made there. But, when people know where to find you and when you're going to be on, I think it helps quite a bit.
What is the schedule that you keep? You said you try to aim for 2 days a week, right?
Tuesday and Thursday are my days right now. I was kind of doing Monday, Wednesday, but then it just kind of turned into Tuesday, Thursday, sort of consistently. I try to just do like, either Tuesday or Thursday, or Monday or Wednesday. It's kind of my goal. And then because I feel like Friday's a hard sell a little bit more, especially now that, the world's kind of opening back up again, just because there's things you can actually kind of do, or there's other options for folks, just on the weekends.
Yeah, but I've noticed that a little bit too. And it's funny you mentioned that, because we were literally streaming on a Friday, but that was one of the things that I was originally trying to figure out. I was like, man, when do I make this happen? And then also, like, what's going to work? And for me, it ended up being Friday, just solely for the reason that my day job, I do marketing, and we work Monday through Thursday. And so I
Right.
have Fridays off every day or every week, and so it's just like
Mm-hmm.
I was like, cool. So I can, if it
You
was
have all
someone
day to get your stuff together.
exactly, and that way
Yeah.
it's not scrambling at the last minute and all
Yep.
that because
Definitely.
everyone knows that that's literally what I do. I just scramble at the last minute to get it
It
all together.
never. Yeah. I was thinking about that when we were like a minute 20 to go, and I see you like carrying some cord from the back corner, like frantically like handing this cord out. I was like,
Oh yeah,
okay.
dude.
But I mean, that's, that's
Man.
how it goes with me. I have a pre-roll that I run that's like a 15 or 20-minute video of just old camera
Dude,
commercials.
I love it. I
So
literally was gonna tell you that I love
Oh,
watching
thanks.
that because it's just like it's so cool to like
So
see all the
good.
old commercials.
Yeah, because when's the last time you saw a camera commercial?
The last one I can think of is like when Ashton Kutcher was like pitching Nikon cool pics.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, it's probably been 15 years since a major brand had a camera commercial on TV for like an SLR or anything, like,
That's true.
and I think
I haven't
that's
seen
just,
that in a long time.
yeah, so it's cool to like see those and remember like, oh yeah, they used to have to sell these to people. But it's kind of funny too, because I feel like it's a little bit different because most of the commercials that I have in the video are from Japan. So it's a bit of a different market, but I was kind of thinking about it too. And like, even when I was a kid, you never saw commercials for professional level equipment. It was always like point and shoots,
Mm-hmm. That's true.
focus free, just point and click, or like disposables or stuff like that, or like maybe like film. But there was never like commercials for like the new Nikon F5. There may have
No
been, but
way.
I mean, I never really saw them because like, people at that level, I don't think you don't really need to, you don't advertise to them.
Yeah, you're not relying on advertising at that point.
Right.
People are already gear specking
Right.
all the different.
They already
details
have
of
their
it.
own kind of, and they already have their brand that they're bought into for lenses and stuff.
That's the worst. That's how they get you. As soon as they hook you on glass, you're stuck forever.
Yep, it's true.
I made
It's true.
the some call it wise, some call it fateful decision to go with Fuji X for all of my new all of my new mirrorless cameras, and
Which one did you get?
the XT3,
Okay.
and I got a couple of them, and we absolutely love them. Like I absolutely love the cameras, but I do wish they had a little bit more lens offerings, but what can you do?
I mean, I'm been scheming on a way to get a GFX 100R and not
You and me
get
both.
killed for it.
Yeah.
My wife wouldn't. 10,000 what? Like, I don't think it's gonna happen for me for a while, but
Probably not anytime
Definitely.
soon. They're supposed to be coming out with a more affordable GFX.
it's true. A GFX 100S, I think.
Yeah. It's like
I
$6,000
think I
or
saw-
something.
Yeah, something like that. It's like $599 a megapixel rather than $999. That's my new pricing scheme for SLRs is by the megapixel.
SLRs.
I'm buying them by the megapixel now.
Buy them
Well,
by
and
the
that's-
pixel.
And that's kind of the thing too. That's also true. Like, I mean, yeah, I want this Fuji GFX 100, but at the same time, it's like my D850 is like already more camera than I probably really need. So,
Yeah, I think at that point, you're just basically you're spending the money to say that you have a mirrorless medium format camera.
I don't know about that. I mean, one time on my stream too, we were like, I wonder how big those RAW files are. And we just looked and we found a full resolution TIFF file
Uh-huh.
from that camera was 600 megabytes.
Whoa,
It was like watching dial-up internet,
dude! Wow.
but the detail and like the latitude and stuff of the image was like,
Is it worth
Oh
all
my
that
gosh.
10K? Is it worth that every penny of it though?
I haven't shot with one, so I can't say.
That's the $1
Um,
million question, or I guess the $10,000 question.
Yeah, and I think it really depends on what you're doing
Mhm.
with the equipment, right? And I think this is another thing that I have thought about a lot, and that I sort of see as something that happens in photography. And we're actually talking about this on my stream last night. That may be sort of more universal to kind of like hobbies, kind of in general, is that people tend to get like super fixated on things that aren't as important as they think they are, especially when it comes to equipment. Because in my opinion, a camera is just a tool, right? All it is a tool that focuses light onto a medium to record it. And whether that medium is an electronic sensor or, some polyester base with, some light sensitive goop smeared across it is irrelevant. The craftsman wielding the tool is much more important than the tool itself. Because you could give me all the same tools that Michelangelo used to carve the statue of David, but you're not going to get that statue from me because I don't know how to use those tools.
True.
You could give me better tools. You could probably give me a 3D printer and I still couldn't do it as good, because I don't know how to use those tools to do that. And I feel like people think that the problem isn't them, or like, I don't know, maybe that's not a good way to putting it, but people think that having the right camera is going to solve all their problems.
True.
And that's not necessarily the case. One thing I would say, though, that kind of ties into that analogy is there's a reason if you go to a construction site, you're not going to see people building houses with handsaws and hammers.
True.
Because we've developed, as a species, we've developed better tools to do those jobs. So, but that being said, I think it's about having the right tool for the job and understanding what you're doing, and just how to use a camera. I feel like is like you can get so far just if you understand how to use a camera and like the rule of thirds. And
That's
like
true.
You're already miles ahead of somebody who just got a DSLR for Christmas and is like, I'm booking minis, like you know what I mean? So like knowing how to use the tool is far more important than what the tool itself is.
Agreed.
That being said, some tools make jobs a lot easier. Like Shu shoots with a Canon A7R4. 65 megapixels, right? It's ridiculous. The resolution on it's bananas. Files are massive, but he does really high-end retouching. Mm-hmm. So for him, that 65 megapixels makes his job way easier to do.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think he would even admit to this, enables him to do the work that he does with that camera. Like he's able to do the things that he does because that camera has 65 megapixels.
Yeah. And yeah, if you're talking about just moving around individual pixels at that point, like being able to have like that ultra sharp, high definition detail is super important, especially when you're doing like blemish retouching and things like that.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Things like that totally make sense.
Yep. And that's, there's still, I don't know. It's like I said, it's a tool for the job. There's a guy that I follow on Instagram who's one of the top cycling photographers like in the world for like bike racing. He doesn't even shoot RAW. He shoots everything in JPEG. Or just like straight out of the camera. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Why would he shoot RAWs? He doesn't need to really tweak them. He gets it like pretty much right in camera the way it's going to look. He's essentially doing photojournalism. It's just like, sports coverage.
Crazy.
And I think that's actually a pretty common thing for most sports photographers. If you look at those cameras at that end of the spectrum, like the flagship model, the D4S, I think it's 24 megapixels, because they don't need it. You don't need that. What you need is a camera that can shoot 15 frames a second.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So it's all about having the right tool for the job. Like you don't need a D850 46 megapixel photo that's just going to get cropped down to this big on a website or this big in a newspaper or something.
That's true.
But if you can't get 15 frames a second, you're going to miss the shot that you need to get.
Yeah. And that's,
and I think that that's something that sometimes can kind of, I don't know, like just having the right tools for the job and knowing how to use the tools is way more important. I see Michelle G. Hunter just entered the chat. She is, I mean, I don't really know much about the Australian scene, but I get the sense that Michelle's kind of a big deal in Australia.
well, hello,
especially
Michelle.
when
Welcome.
it comes to music photography. She's like toured the world with artists, shooting photos and stuff, and done some really huge festival work and stuff with people. And so, and like that's another thing that the Twitch community has in terms of diversity. We have people like Michelle. We have, we just have so many different people doing so many different things that, there's kind of something for everyone. And yeah, and like that's kind of the thing I found with gear the most is people seem to think that a certain camera is going to make their photos better, but it's maybe not really like that. Like the camera's not going to, like the camera's just going to enable you to do different things. Like, and I also realize it's easy for me to say this because I've got a lot of really nice cameras. I have a lot of really nice cameras that I've like really sort of spent time to figure out that that's what I wanted or that's what I, wanted to have. And, there's also been cameras that I've had that were really nice that I was like, this just doesn't work for me. I can't use this to do the things I want to. So maybe this camera's not right for me. But yet still, I mean, I just think that people kind of get hyper fixated on things that aren't as important when it comes to photography. And I think greater hobbies too, like people always think that when they first get into something, it's like there's a right way to do it. And this really like, somebody said something to me once, a friend of mine, his name was Jeremy Conant. He was a photographer. But he just had this day job working for United Airlines, and he had like worked at Thrasher, I think, like in the dark room over there or something. He lived in San Francisco for a long time and like knew a bunch of people. And he told me one time, I think I said something once that was kind of gatekeepy and sort of scoffy, like, oh, well, the soccer mom will be or something like that. And he just looked at me and he said, man, there's room for everybody. This is the world's #1 hobby.
That's a good point.
Like, what do you think you're so special? Like there's plenty of room for everybody. And so, that's something I think about, but I do feel like sometimes, especially in film, I feel like it's gotten really bad for whatever reason. And I feel like the people that are the worst about it are the ones who like started shooting film 2 years ago or like, in the last 2 or 3 years. Those are the people that are always like, I only shoot on film, or like, oh, film, hashtag analog, hashtag buy film, not megapixels, hashtag, like some of those folks are the ones who it's like, are you just doing this because it gets likes on Instagram, or is this something you're actually sort of passionate about and like really enjoy?
Yeah. And I think that's like such a great mantra to kind of keep in mind is just that, there's room for everyone. And also just keeping in mind, like, man, when I first started, I sucked.
Oh,
I still shoot stuff now and I'm just like, what am I doing? And like the fact of like, just because I've been doing it longer or because I've had like certain particular shoots like in my past doesn't mean
you've had certain opportunities. Yeah, it
doesn't mean that like I necessarily have more of a right to, claim what's great or what's enjoyable or what's the right way to do it necessarily. Like there's
and
so
all
much
I can tell anyone is what's worked for me.
True.
And what I've done and the experience that I've had. That's the only thing that I can relate, that I can say to anyone. It's just to share what wrong way. There we go. To just share what I know. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
And whether or not people take my advice or not, it's not my department.
Well, Alex, we've been talking for just about an hour and a half now. Speaking of time flying by earlier in long streams, it's crazy that it's already been that long. And I think that is just like such a perfect note to end it on. Is just
absolutely.
There's room for everyone, and like just support each other out there. I love the idea of how your Twitch community is so supportive, and like that's ultimately what I want to kind of cultivate with this show, is like people supporting other people and photographers being all about other photographers. So
you should come try it out on Twitch, man. Give it the old Pepsi challenge.
I'm gonna do it. You've
convinced me. Because I know, and Michelle does. I think she does one stream a week, where she lives in she's in Australia. I mentioned that, but so sometimes she's streaming at weird times. Like I'll wake up in the morning, and I'll look at my phone, and it's like Michelle G. Hunter was live. And I'm like, oh, that was 8 hours ago. I was like dead asleep, like when that happened. But she also does some streams too that are probably weird times for her, like noon or something, where she does some really great interviews. She does I think one stream a week where she interviews some people, and she gets some heavy hitters in there that just have some great advice. I might have caught
a couple of her streams in the past. Then it's very possible.
Yeah, definitely. But like that's like what she just does interviews like this, like for one stream a week, and it's always just incredible. And there's other people who do, kind of occasional, more like one-off kind of interviews and stuff. But I think that this would do pretty well on that platform. And just, I think that was one thing that I kind of wanted to tell everybody in the Twitch community about it. I blew up a whole bunch of Discords earlier today about this. And just, because I think that it's not like us versus, it's not like Twitch people versus YouTube people or whatever. I think it's all about, just building a community and establishing, a community for it, because I feel like there's a lot of people who want to be a part of this, or like want to get into photography, and they get met with a lot of weird resistance and gatekeeping from people. And I think that that's just stupid. And it's like, especially now, because there's like not really anything that like I know or that I do that somebody can't learn in like 15 minutes.
Yep. I agree. I think that
on YouTube, like there's so much information out there that it's like, why gatekeep any of it? People are just going to find it anyway.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is just trying to build a community of positivity, just trying to keep people on like involved, like whatever platform it is irrelevant to me. I went back and forth between a couple of them in the early phases, and this just happened to fit because that was kind of where the audience was at. But I think you've convinced me today to give it another look. So I'm super excited to see what it's all about. And it's been really fun, like getting to chat and kind of check out some of the streams.
Yeah, definitely. I was glad to see you pop up in other people's Twitch streams, because, it's that thing where it's like, if you can lead a horse to water, but they may not drink. But I'm sure when you get the horse there and the horse drinks, you're like, oh, okay, thank God. It's just more of it's more satisfying.
Yeah, of course.
And I was, and I just, like I said, I've received such a positive response from the community, the photography community on Twitch specifically, that I know we can do that for more people. Anybody who wants to anybody who has a passion and who has an idea and who wants to be a part of that photography community can,
Dude, I
and
love
so, that. We would love to have you, I'm sure, doing like once a week, doing interviews like this once a week, I'm sure that would be something that a lot of people could rally around. And I mean, and here's another thing too, they can still be on YouTube, because admittedly Twitch isn't great for like archiving.
Yeah.
Or, well, you can upload stuff, I think, but like there's a time limit on videos on demand after they've been live streamed, which I think YouTube just like does it. But I mean, I know other people who, especially I think with some with some of these like kind of interview streams, they can record them and kind of then just upload them to YouTube as their own kind of a standalone thing, because then you kind of get the best of both worlds. You can have the more interactive live stream audience community, and you can still get the YouTube people, get people who are there to just see, video, or just like more pre-recorded kind of content and stuff like that.
Well, listen, man, I'm super excited. I really genuinely think that I'm going to check it out. And
you definitely, you
this
should.
is fantastic.
And if you don't like it, I'll personally refund you your money.
I'm coming after you. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know.
Yeah, anytime, man. I love talking about this stuff, and we could keep this going for probably another 2 hours.
Dude, I'm sure
we didn't even really talk about me at all.
Oh man,
I feel like accomplished.
I feel like we covered a lot of ground, man. We were all over the place.
Yeah. Well, maybe next time.
Well, we got plenty more coming up.
Yeah, true.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, because it's in a lot of ways I sort of feel like I'm a small fish. Like I'm like one of those fish that's like on the back of a whale. And there's like some other people in the community that are a lot more, I don't know. There's just a lot of people in the community that have done a lot of really cool things and have really cool outlooks, on Twitch as a platform. And so I'm honored that you asked me to be a part of this. So I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, man. And that right there is literally why I had you, because I love your humility. I love what you're doing. I love seeing that you're doing something different in, maybe the most, or maybe one of the lesser traditional platforms. And I just love it. I like showing people that are doing interesting stuff. So you fit that bill perfectly.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, I will talk with you soon. And again, we'll have to do this again sometime.
I would love to.
On Twitch.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Maybe I'll have you come be a guest on my stream sometime.
There we go. I'm on board.
There we go. Boom. There we go.
Awesome,
man. 2 weeks from next Tuesday or something, we'll figure it out.
We can do it. We'll make it happen.
Perfect.
Awesome, man. Well, have a good rest of your night, and I will talk to you soon.
All right.
Later.